So we're waiting for Ram, but maybe we can already start.
Yeah, let's go. Okay.
So this is actually the second interview. Thank you so much, Levi, for joining us again after the great Friday last week.
Thank you.
One of the first things we wanted to ask you with Ram today in terms of this London Marathon is how you see the kind of how you assess the current moment we are kind of living right now. So your feelings about now.
I think it's a moment where there seems to be a lot of potential for new ways of sort of negotiating things to happen. I sort of feel it's a moment where we can start to really maybe start to understand another dimension in our engagement with things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Sorry, short answers.
Oh, that's good. And maybe also in terms of the city, it would be good to get a little bit, your assessment of the now, so to kind of extend the question about the current moment to the city.
About the city.
I spoke some weeks ago to J.G. Ballard, and we spoke about sort of the form of a city in the early 20th century, and he was sort of saying that he thinks that it is how it is, and we have to kind of accept it and make the best out of it. And he thinks that it's sort of unrestricted urban sprawl, it's decentered metropolis, it's transient kind of airport culture, it's gated communities, and it's actually at the same time also the absence of any kind of civic pride. So I was wondering how you would assess that kind of...
I find all that rather refreshing. I think I'm more fond of the idea of a city that sort of is less formal, more broken down in terms of its sort of legibility. I think what's happening to London, you can be critical in terms of a kind of coherence of the city, but I think that it's about maybe a way that the city can be broken up and remade again in a different way.
Yeah.
So I think that the kind of boom that's going on, apart from all the kind of congestion it's causing, is a very exciting sort of proposition for the city, really.
Yeah. And maybe to be more specific about London, can you talk more about London?
Well, it's specifically London. I mean, obviously, the obvious things of finishing the last quarter of the pie of London is very interesting, the whole Olympic development. I mean, Lord knows what that's going to be like. But I'm fascinated by the way in which London is always regenerated itself. If you look at the way the city is kind of looking at itself and the way in which the East has readdressed itself, and even how the West is repicturing itself. So, the sort of bourgeois sort of life that has kind of happened in West London and how it's actually starting to spill right through to Northwest London. Yeah. This is really interesting.
And you're working on lots of public commissions right now in London?
Well, three.
Yeah. Can you tell us about those?
I'm working on 3 public commissions, which are all of them, well, one in the south, one in the east, and one in the north. 3 different types of programs. The central theme amongst all of them is a kind of notion of bringing forward a group, emerging groups in the sort of London cultural life that sort of up to this moment didn't have, had voices but didn't have kind of physical homes. So it's about really making cultural centers of sort in the form of a media performing arts center in the north, a sort of new arts center, think tank center in the east, and an education center in the south.
And do you have any kind of unrealized projects in relation to London, kind of dreams?
Gosh, I think I was just quite shocked by just being able to build in London that I'm trying to get my head around what that means.
But there are projects maybe which haven't worked out or not yet worked out, or kind of the whole notion of the unrealized. What's the kind of percentage in your office of things which are realized and things which are unrealized?
It's interesting. I've never done the statistical test. I don't want to know yet. I think my people who do my economics know exactly how much money we've lost on things not realized. But it's not a statistic that I have at the moment. But we try to be really careful. We don't make thousands of projects. We work very specifically on things. So it's not about that kind of relationship, and I don't have that kind of utopic sort of relationship to London or to the way I practice. So.
One project actually I was curious to hear more about is your INIVA project,
Yeah.
which is a project for a cultural institution
Yes.
in the 21st century. So I
Yes.
was somehow wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the vision behind that.
INIVA is about an organization that an amazing man called Stuart Hall has been spearheading two arts organizations, one that's kind of committed to visual arts of the diaspora and the international community in its wider sense, and an Autograph, which is a photo archiving agency. And the idea is to really make a sort of, I think in its essence, the model for this building is a prototype for, I think, the arts now, an agenda that I think is becoming contemporary. One of not a local or sort of regional sort of scenario, but one that has a much more planetary, global kind of agenda to it. So INIVA is really about really pushing an international and sort of more planet, sort of agenda. So I hope that they're like an incubator for a new model in the arts, really. So that's kind of what INIVA is about.
And how will it work as a building? Because it obviously includes not only exhibitions, but it's also a research, it's a knowledge production kind of institution.
It's mostly a knowledge production organization. It's hardly an exhibition space. Actually, the exhibition space is very, very limited. It's very small. And actually, it's seen as a kind of reactive think tank organization. So they have a small auditorium for lectures, fast lectures, to be able to bring people in very quickly. And they have a massive database system. And they publish. Essentially, Autograph and INIVA really are more famous for their publications, and I think that's what they want to expand more on it, to have this as a place where debate and this sort of thing happens.
Thank you. Maybe Rem has questions?
Did you talk about time?
Not yet, no.
Okay. I think that both Hans Ulrich and I are kind of very often caricatured as people who have no time. But in your case, we are confronted with very stringent kind of deadlines about time. Can you say something about your time, how you use it, and whether you have enough time to do what you want to do? And basically about time today.
About time today? Well, I'm just about to go.
And I should really say that the reason you're here as the people kind of enter the building is that you need to go. Yes. And that you...
In a few minutes, actually, to the airport.
Which time would I be in? Which time slot would I be in if I wasn't... I think, time is something that one's always kind of negotiating and working with. I mean, I'm trying to kind of sort of organize... I don't know what you mean. Is this like a personal time discussion, really? Like a diary time discussion?
Well, the beautiful thing is that it's kind of both personal and kind of general.
Yeah. I don't know. Time is a very interesting thing. I mean, in a way, time is a kind of an engagement. It's a kind of engagement issue. So it's about a certain kind of modes of engagement for me. So this was something I wanted to do, but unfortunately, I have been planning something which is been on, it's a sort of, not just a sort of work thing, but a project that I'm trying to work on at the moment very much. So this notion, this unfortunately collided with it because I can't miss my flight. I don't know what to say. I can't miss my flight, so I have to go.
Okay, so let the record show that 2 times in 1 week we accommodated your deadlines.
Done.
I have a last question actually about, because your journey leads you to Johannesburg, and we were somehow curious if you can tell us a little bit more about this project actually, which is a kind of an archive project to make photographs of all the capitals in Africa. Is it a book or more?
It might become a book. I think it's going to become a show. I mean, I'm sort of working on, I'm very interested in notions of formality, informality and casualness in cities. And I'm interested in kind of, in a way, diarying through that. And I'm very interested in the notion of the 54 sort of states of the African continent, and using that as a springboard for me to explore certain ideas that I already am interested in. So it's a kind of way of making a diary, kind of bringing presence, eminence to something which I think is a little bit out of focus, but also a way of really sort of foregrounding my interests and the kind of way in which I work.
And so is it complete already soon, or how many?
No,
cities are
it's on the wall in my studio, so we're furiously working on it. But yeah, it's got to be in a show in the spring next year. So yeah. So next spring you'll
I think we should end and start again.
So thank you very much.
Okay.
And have a good trip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.